I've got a question for you. How do you stay motivated in your Minecraft worlds? I go on Reddit sometimes, and often, if you do in the Minecraft subreddits there, you'll see questions like, hey, I have this big empty space. What do I build here? Or you'll see people commenting how they just can't seem to find that spark anymore that they used to have when they played the game in the past. And I think motivation can be a big problem in an open sandbox game like this. So today, I'm going to provide you with a few simple tips about how you can maintain the motivation in your own Minecraft world. So let's kick this off. And the first tip that I have for you guys is to find your story. Now, what I mean by that is not necessarily that you need to create a giant, like, insane backstory to your world. You're not writing a new Lord of the Rings. You don't have to invent a new language for your world or anything like that. But if you're sitting there wondering, what do I build next? What should I put in this giant empty space? What do I do with that hill over there? What do I do with this cool terrain? Just ask yourself the question, like, what would actually make sense? What do I already have in my world? What story am I trying to tell? Even if it's just a very basic story, even if it's just, I want my world to have a sense of history. I want my world to have a bit of age to it. Or maybe your world is meant to be a new world. You're like a little pioneer going off and you're in new, fresh terrain. You don't have any history because you are building everything from scratch. You're this new character who's the first one to ever come across that landscape. And so those kinds of questions can help you direct and determine the kinds of builds that you want to have. For instance, if you're going for a world that has some age to it, you might build structures like this that have got a lot of more ruined stone. You have stones that have fallen down onto the ground. You're going to have maybe some newer structures that are built in, intermixed with the older ones. And that's what I've got here. So, the story that I've been telling in this world, for instance, is that of a hobbit village thing where there's a hobbit or hobbits. They've settled in this little ditch, this little valley here. But at the same time, there's some older structures like the tower and some of the farm buildings here. And those older structures were built by a more advanced civilization. So that's where all my redstone is going. That way, I don't have to have hobbits necessarily being the ones coming up with all these advanced redstone contraptions. They were already here for hundreds or thousands of years first, and then the hobbits came and settled it, made it their own, just like this at my melon and pumpkin farm, where there's literally a hobbit hole that's built in between these two farms here. So telling a story in your world doesn't have to be super complicated, but it can give you that little spark to determine the direction you want to take. And that might be enough to come up with your next build. And from there, you just keep going and trying to tell the same cohesive story or just change the story. If you're getting bored with one particular narrative, I mean, maybe you go 2,000 blocks away and you start something completely different. Maybe you have um, a whole new civilization or a whole new village or town or something, you can tell a completely different story if they're far enough away. You don't necessarily have to connect those. So that can be another way. If you're stuck in a rut or stuck in a ditch, just start a new story. My next tip for you, write it down. Now, what I mean by that is you need to put something from pen to paper in some way or another. Because you might come up with a great idea one day. Maybe you're in the shower where all the best thinking happens, and you come up with this amazing idea, and then you go to work or go to school, and by the time you get home, you've completely forgotten about it. You had this great idea of what you could do next, and then when you log into Minecraft, you're sitting there thinking, what was that thing I was going to do? What's my plan? And that's just one day. Imagine trying to figure out what you're going to do in a world over the course of weeks or months or even years. If you don't have some sort of written down plan somewhere or something to guide you, it's really easy to become kind of aimless and get distracted and to fall off track when it comes to accomplishing the goals that you want to achieve in the world you've got. Now, there are a lot of ways to write that down. That could literally be in a physical book. Like, for instance, I've got a paper notebook where I'm writing down all of the different things for my videos. I've got a checklist of all the different farms I want to build and all the different experiences I want to have in this world, because, of course, in this world, I want to do everything. But in game, there's also a lot of ways to make a list, and I've got a few of them sort of demonstrated and scattered around here. For instance, you can make a project board, and it's as simple as taking a few signs, putting them on the wall, and saying, hey, here's what I want to do next in my world. So, for instance, I might say, build a automatic wool farm. And then the nice thing with these, of course, you can make them glow. Very pretty. Right, and you might have other things as well. You say, maybe you want to make a honey and honeycomb farm. So add that to the list. Or another simple one might be build a warden sanctuary in the end. Yeah, nice and simple, right? That may or may not be a sneak peek of an idea that I've got planned, so maybe you should subscribe if that sounds interesting. But yeah, a project board like this, especially if you build it into the world and make it an actual part of the environment, that can be really nice, and it's a good visual way of keeping track of things. And whenever you're done something, just take down the sign and replace it with a new one. Another way, of course, is you can write a physical book in the game. You get a book and quill, and then you can put it on a book stand. You can have a list with you, and that's portable. You can take the book with you and keep track of it for different projects or things like that. Or if you know you need to gather a certain amount of resources, maybe you use that book to write a list of everything you need. That way, you can use that tool in game without having to rely on something from outside of the game, and that just helps a bit with the immersion and that sort of thing. So, for instance, I've got a few plans in here. Oh, no, that you saw nothing. You saw nothing. That was the wrong book. Moving on from that, there's another way of making a list, and this one is a little bit more unorthodox. This is one of my Scooter specialties, and that is make a bunch of ugly pillars all around your base and stick signs on them telling you what to do. That way, when you're flying over your world, you see a bunch of ugly pillars, and those say, hey, build this, hey, build that, do that over here, do that over there. Make the world better, make it cohesive, stop being lazy, and get to work. You've got all these bright yellow markers telling you exactly what to do, exactly where it's going to go. That's really handy, actually, for building out a larger project like this, or even just like a small to medium-sized base like what I've got here. You put those markers down, and then you can visualize what's going to be there, and then that helps with building the next thing. So, for instance, down here by my enchanter setup, I'm going to try to put a hobbit hole right here. I'm going to then have a pathway. Pathway through the trench is what that says. a pathway that comes up through this little natural trench in the ground that can come up around here, and then I'm going to build one hobbit hole maybe on a diagonal. Same thing built into the hill right here. Over here. Oh. Over here I have a distraction. Okay, get that guy. Ow. Ow. Okay. Now. Nope. Fly away. Okay, shoot your boss. There we go. Distraction averted. But yes, as I said before, I was so rudely interrupted there. Make physical lists. Build things, ugly pillars, make it visible, make it ugly so that you get bothered by it and remember to do something about it. And yeah, that can help you keep track and say, okay, what's that next little thing I wanted to do? And you just bang them out one after another. I find it to be really effective. My next tip for you, build connections. You can have a lot of builds in your world, a lot of different, maybe you have a cool wizard tower, and then you have a cool redstone farm, and then you've got like a town square or something. You can have a whole bunch of different things, but they have to stay connected. Otherwise, again, you might lose that motivation. You might feel you're just building random things. There's no ties between them. So build some connections between your different builds. That might be as simple as well as just build a waterway, build a little river. If there's one part of your base that's got a pond and there's another part of your base that's got a pond, maybe you expand those out and you can make a physical connection in the landscape between those, helping to tie everything together just like this. So for instance, I've got my sugarcane farm over here that I built. Got my sugarcane farm that I built over here in my previous video. I've got a cactus farm that I built in between episodes, and that's happily producing little bits of cacti for me, and that way I can get some nice green dye. Got plenty of sugarcane building up in here now, but these things are just down here in this little ditch in the landscape. Again, I've got them sitting in a pond, no connection with anything else. So I've got to build a proper entrance and pathway for these farms here. And I want to bring the river all the way through. That's eventually going to come around to the lake that I've got here. And then, yeah, I need to fill this whole place with other pathways and connections and make sure that physically it all makes sense. If this is a little hobbit village thing, there need to be roads between people's houses so that they can be nosy neighbors and interact with one another, right? But you know what I mean. Build some connections, make everything tie together. And that's just, again, another thing that you can do. Once you've run out of some of the bigger projects, you can just spend a couple hours building a road. And it, again, doesn't have to be super duper complex. Maybe you just come over here like this. And the first step is you just lay down where you might want to see a pathway. Again, follow the landscape, make that feel nice and natural. That's going to come around here in this case. We've got this. It's going to come down into the little ditch thing. And then from there, I'll figure out the rest of the drain and things like that. That way, everything here is going to be connected up through the new hobbit holes that I'm going to make over here. Nice, gentle curve. And as you go, just wherever you're walking, just have fun with the shovel, build the new path, make it natural where you would normally walk anyways. And then that connection feels real. It's just not a random road out in the middle of nowhere. It's a road that actually makes sense if you were living in the world. Now, those connections don't always have to be in the overworld either. Let's take a quick trip into the Nether and I'll show you another type of connection you can make. So here we are in the Nether. You might notice if you've watched some of the earlier videos, this looks a little bit different than what I had before. And that's because I've actually moved my Nether portals in here all up to the same level really high in the nether. And then this way, I can dig out a little area and even start having tunnels out to other places. And that makes quick travel a lot easier if I don't smash my face in the rocks. But for instance, over here, I've got my portal, and this goes to the end portal so that I can easily access the end and I don't have to fly through the nether below and try to figure out where all of my portals are and potentially get blasted by ghasts and die in lava and all of that. So again, if you're trying to make connections between things and you don't want to build a giant path that goes 10,000 blocks in the overworld, consider building a nether tunnel, and then that way you don't have to go 10,000 blocks to get to your destination. You can decorate those tunnels, you can do a lot of really interesting things with them. And again, that change of pace, that doing something different really helps maintain motivation. Tip number 4, show and tell. One of the best ways of maintaining your motivation in this game is to share what you're doing with other people. If you're on a server, invite your friends to come and see your new build. Maybe you build something in a communal area. Maybe you have a little shop district set up where you guys can trade resources and things. Well, make a cool shop. Don't just make a dirt hut. Make something that you actually feel proud of sharing with other people. Same goes with if you're in a single player world, just start taking screenshots. Take those screenshots, post them online, put them on Reddit, put them on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever the kids are using these days. Find a way to share your build with other people, and they might like it. And that might help motivate you to do a little bit more. It means when you're doing a build, you're not necessarily going to cut corners because you want to actually produce something that you're willing and proud to share with other people, or even just your friends and family. Like send a picture or a short video to your mom and be like, hey, here's what I do all of these hours of the day. Do you like it? And your mom will probably say yes because, that's her job. But yeah, you can attract a crowd of people. You can amass a wonderful following. I mean, and if you're really into it, maybe start a YouTube channel. You never know. Maybe you'll have millions and millions of subscribers one day. The act of posting, the act of sharing online, it's really fun. Part of the reason why I'm doing YouTube is not so that I can become rich and famous, because I highly doubt that's going to happen. It's just because I enjoy talking. I enjoy sharing what I'm doing. I enjoy having a following of people other than, not just chickens. But show and tell. Yeah, find something people are interested in, and who knows, maybe you will have a whole bunch of people who are looking for that next thing that you're going to do. People who are invested in the content that you're making. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a job. It can honestly just be for fun. But yeah, find somebody who looks at you the same way these chickens are looking at me as I fold these seeds here. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. But you might be saying, Scooter, it doesn't work. I've tried all of the tips you've given me so far, and I'm still bored with the game. I still don't know how to find that motivation. I still really struggle with enjoying what it is that I'm doing. How do I force myself to have fun playing Minecraft again? And the simple answer really is you don't. Maybe you need to. Point number 5, just take a break. And that might sound counterintuitive. How do you maintain motivation in a game? Oh, just stop playing the game. But honestly, that can be really handy. If you are feeling burned out, just do something different. Get into a different game. Maybe go outside. Maybe touch some grass. Maybe have some fun with your family. Just do a board game. Maybe go on a trip. Maybe get into some photography or something. Do anything to change pace and have fun doing other things. Knowing that, Minecraft, it's always going to be here. It's not going anywhere. The developers of this game want this game to last 100 years. So yeah, it's probably gonna outlast you. Don't worry. Find a way of unplugging, recharging, taking a break, especially if you are doing any sort of content creation as well. That's especially needed because the pressure to perform and the pressure to come up with the next big thing is massive. So if you are feeling burned out, just like anything in life, take a break, take a vacation. I recently did the same thing. As you might know, I recently just moved apartments, and that's been a lot of work, and that's why it's been like a month or so since my last video came out. I don't even remember. Um, it's because yeah, moving is hard. Moving is takes lifting heavy objects. It's a lot of work to pack and to clean, and then cleaning the old place and cleaning the new place, and all of that uh, takes a lot of time out. And that's time that I didn't have to play in Minecraft. But you know what? As I was on that break doing all of those important adult things, all I wanted to do was come back into the game. And that's where this video is coming from. I'm like, okay, I have all of this motivation. What do I want to do? Maybe I can share how to stay motivated with other people who might be having a bit of a struggle with that. Like at the end of the day, Minecraft is just a game, right? You don't have to force yourself to feel anything. You're not necessarily going to recapture the feeling that you had when you were like 10 years old with the game and just discovering it and everything was new and you didn't know anything. You know, your first night you got massacred by zombies and you loved it and it was the best thing ever. And, you know, ever since then, maybe you're trying to recapture that feeling. Don't worry about it. Just relax, enjoy the game for what it is. And if you need to take a break, just do it. It's going to be here for you when you get back. Pausing on something can be the best way of having fun with it when you do come back, because then, yeah, you appreciate it that much more. You have that much more fun with it when you're getting back into it. You remember all the projects you wanted to accomplish because you left handy little ugly wool markers all over the place. And you say to yourself, okay, I am ready. It's been a couple weeks, it's been a month. Who knows, maybe it's been a year. I want to do this again. I want to get back into it. The other advantage with that, of course, is Minecraft is constantly releasing new updates to the game. Usually, at least once a year, there's a major content update. And so maybe you take a break when things are a bit slower in the development cycle and they release a new update, and then just come back then. Come back and enjoy the new content that they're introducing. Right now, they're working on the 1.20 Trails and Tales update. That's going to introduce a lot of really fun things to the game, like cherry blossom biomes and bamboo wood and camels and archaeology and armor trims and changes to how netherite works and all these sorts of things. I'm personally holding back on certain elements of my own world because I want to experience those newer things. It's getting dark. These guys are still listening to me. Maybe I am saying something right. The point is, take a break. You'll be glad you did. Maybe you'll find another game that's now your new favorite game. I mean, let's be serious though. Minecraft is the greatest game of all time, so I highly doubt that that's going to be the case. But taking a break might be exactly what you need to get those creative juices flowing and have fun in the game again. But yes, those are my tips for you. Hope you found them helpful. If maybe you have your own tips for how to stay motivated in the game, if that's the case, put them down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on what I've shared today and what you have to offer as well. And then if somebody else comments, maybe comment on their comment and have a conversation with each other about how to maintain motivation in this amazing, blocky, super fun, weird game that we call Minecraft. But that is honestly where I'm going to leave it for today. I didn't really do anything, but I'm feeling motivated. So maybe between episodes, I'll work on some of those projects that I laid out for myself. But I will sign off. This has been Scooter_92 from Scooter's World. and hope you guys have a wonderfully motivated day.